The Absolute Idiots Podcast.
Hi, everybody. I am indeed James.
And I'm Armand.
And we are the absolute idiots. It's going to take a little while to get the timing down. James, how are you doing today?
It's all right. I am doing quite well myself, although I am kind of a little bit hungry for a specific craving.
You're hungry for a specific craving, James?
Yes.
How oddly specific do you think that craving is?
I think so oddly specific enough that I want some red chili hummus from Trader Joe's, but unfortunately, I don't seem to find any around me.
Well, you're in luck, James, because today's sponsor is actually Trader Joe's Smooth and Creamy Roasted Red Pepper Hummus. And while it may not be red chili hummus, it's probably just as good. So Trader Joe's has sent both James and I a whole case of the Trader Joe's Smooth and Creamy Roasted Red Pepper Hummus. I'm pretty much done with the case. I have one final package here just because I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about it, but this thing is amazing, and James absolutely can attest. I know he's a humongous hummus fan. It's smooth and creamy as advertised. So creamy, so smooth, smoother than a smooth table. And there's the roasted red pepper. It's roasted. It's the pepper is good. It's got a little bit of a kick, a little bit of a it's got paprika. It's got spices. It doesn't specify what spices, but man, I trust Trader Joe's with my life, and I cannot recommend this product enough. Absolutely, it is perishable, and you should keep it refrigerated once open. You should definitely enjoy it within 7 days. And James and I have been enjoying it within like the 2 days that they sent it to us. So, thank you, Trader Joe's again. Thank you to the smooth and creaminess, and thank you to the roasted red pepper, and of course, thanks for the hummus and hitting us with the sponsorship.
Fun for the whole family. Wonderful. Anyways, moving along to today's topic.
What is today's topic, James?
Well, you see, we're gonna get real with you today.
How real?
We're gonna get real, okay?
Ooh.
We, as podcast hosts, kind of live behind a veil of our communications between you, the audience, and us. And I know some of you revere us as gods among men, or perhaps, idols, or maybe even just good friends. But no matter how you view us, we are, in fact, human too. And you know what humans love most?
Trader Joe's smooth and creamy roasted red pepper hummus.
But second most. Sorry, I forgot to.
No, I only know Trader Joe's smooth and creamy roasted red pepper hummus. Enlighten me, James. Enlighten our viewers and listeners.
We as human beings love to play games, but not any type of games.
Oh, okay.
There's only one specific type of game that reigns above all else, and that is playground games. Ooh. That's right. Our topic today is, in fact, common playground games found on the playground.
On the playground, wow.
So yeah, what kind of experience do you have with playground games, Armand?
Playground games? I was a sandbox kid for most of my playground game lifetime.
Wow.
But that's a whole can of worms. But definitely, I think like when I think playground games, I definitely think of the one that like dominated our school for the longest time. And that was wall ball, which definitely okay. We're very much. I think we may have talked about this not on the program before, but wow, wall ball is just by far if you have not played like an intense game of wall ball ever, I highly recommend. It is quite good. I played it
fun.
not really recently, but like a year ago maybe with some people, and it was just wow. It is intense. And I remember at our school it was very intense. We had like a power ranking system, you know, like just like talking about like which players are like best and like what they excel at.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and it was like people were like lining up for this. The rules that we played with, where I think basically the official like the not tournament, I guess, quote unquote tournament rules were like rainbows were allowed and 2 bounces I think were allowed.
Wait. Do you mind explaining rainbows first? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah,
all
so
the
so there are a
audience
couple
know
of things. For us, let me. I guess I should explain the way wall ball works. So the
Oh,
way
yeah,
wall ball
yeah.
works is you have one of those like playground balls that you like use for kickball and stuff, and it's like whatever. It's usually
pretty
red. It's
bouncy,
got the
rubbery.
yeah, very bouncy. Basically, you have to hit the ball with your hand or your fist or 2 fists, and have it bounce once and then hit the wall, and then it comes back. And then depending on who you play with, you can vary the number of bounces that the ball can have on the ground when it's coming back before someone is out. And so when I say 2 bounces was the rule, there were 2 bounces before someone got out for not hitting the ball. And then rainbows, so instead of hitting the ball back, you could instead duck your head under the ball, and that counted as getting a hit, but the bounces were still active. So if you rainbowed under the ball, someone else would have to either rainbow again or hit it back. It was basically you were safe. Your turn had been done. And that was kind of the official rules that we had. Yeah, and that was our tournament rules was 2 bounces and rainbows and wow. I mean, games were intense. People would like come and watch or like there were a couple kids who were like, I want to commentate this.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was insane. And this was in 5th grade. This was like we were not much older. But like we were the big kids, so it was mostly just
Right.
other 5th graders. But yeah, we had like a PR system basically.
Wow.
And I think I was 10th on the PR. The PR wasn't super like official or
Damn.
anything. I remember it was just like me and a couple of other like friends who like played wall ball or like watched wall ball were like, this is I think the PR.
Amon's a top tier from his childhood days.
I was a top 10 player. Well, I was very much like an all around player. We basically our skills. God, this is like really weird memories. I'm just like remembering this all now that we're talking. We had like so there were a bunch of skills. There was like the speed factor, which was like how close can you get to the ball and how far away can you get from the ball, like when you need to be. There was like a power,
Okay.
like a strength, like how hard can you hit the ball. There was a clutch factor, which was like if the ball is getting very close to the floor with bounces, can you hit it back enough? Because sometimes the ball, like you can hit it. We called it a skimmer when it like
Ooh.
it's almost like when you like throw a rock across a lake and it like bounces like very sharply, like just like flat. We would call those skimmers because they would come back and they'd be like skimming the ground almost, and you could barely tell like how many bounces were happening. Yeah, so like people who could hit back skimmers, that was like a clutch factor. And then there was obviously who could do rainbows really well. And I was definitely like okay at everything except maybe rainbows, but I also like made up for it with power. But I remember our top player was just like everything was just like a 10. Like he was an unstoppable beast on the wall ball court. I mean, you hit a ball to this guy and it was like a skimmer back no matter what. You hit a skimmer to this guy, he rainbows under it. So I remember like very specifically one of the
Rainbow
most
under a
vivid-
skimmer. What?
not under a skimmer, but like the ball was just so low, and it was I don't remember who hit it. It was either me or someone else, and it was in like there was like Final Four, I guess, and I think I had just hit it, and it was a very strong shot, but it was like low to the ground, not like a skimmer, but it was like low to the ground, and it went like all the way back, like way off of like the painted line of the court, and he just like runs out there and like rainbows under it, and like the last possible, he like rolls and dives under it, and the dude who was closest got out, and it was just like one of the most insane wall ball plays I've ever seen. And I have a ton of like Well, not as much anymore now that it's been like a few more years. But there are like on my knuckles, if you notice, like there's like weird like bumps. It's from when like
Oh.
I try and hit a skimmer. I like have grazed my hand against the
Oh.
pavement and it like cut in there. And now it like looks. It was on my knuckles mostly, so some parts of my knuckles looked like really weird. But that's just from those are wall ball injuries, dude. It was.
Damn,
God,
so you're a vet.
yeah, no, it was a really fun game. I don't want to talk too much more about it. It did go away after a while, and I can talk about that in a little bit. But I want to let you talk about your experience with wall ball, or maybe another playground game.
Well, okay, so I personally we had wall ball at our school, yes.
Yeah.
I we did not have quite as much of the rigor, I guess, to which wall ball was special to us. Wall ball was definitely like people lined up for it, sure, and people had
Right.
fun, but it's not quite this whole thing that your school had.
Yeah.
It was what our school lost in a wall ball specialty. We definitely made up in a variety of different other games. Just to quickly go over our wall ball games. They were quite basic. Basically, we had no such like. I remember when I like sometime this year I was first taught about how in this school district or in Palo Alto school district there was this whole like specialty rules with like rainbows and stuff, and this was all like completely new news to me. I had no like our school had nothing like this.
Yeah.
We had a very basic rule set of just like hit it against the wall, and one bounce only.
Oh wow.
And I think for a time, like for when very early into wall ball's inception, we allowed people to like hold the ball for 1 second. And I will admit I was much better at that version of wall ball than when wall balling became you just have to hit it and you can't hold on to it whatsoever.
I think there was a game that was played similarly to those rules, but instead of using like the wall, it was like a tennis ball. I remember that was like pretty big my 6th grade year in middle school.
Interesting.
That was like for like a couple of months, like that was a really big game. It was like you would catch it basically and then throw it back at the wall.
Interesting.
But yeah, continue.
I don't believe I've ever done that or anything like that in my life. But yeah,
I don't remember exactly the rules, but I think it was similar. You were talking and it reminded me of that. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, so we had wall ball as well, and it was fun, and I liked doing it. But we did not have quite as many special rules, and we definitely didn't have like a ranking system or commentators or anything. But like I said, we had a big variety of different games, and I'm going to go on a small side tangent for a hot sec here.
Go on.
The reason we had so many of these games is because we had a system or I don't know what to call it really, a program. A program is probably a better word. We had a program at our school called Playworks. I'm not sure if anybody else in the audience really knows what this is. I thought this was like a like school or not school wide, but like
District wide or like
district wide thing.
Yeah.
Or like countrywide or not country, but at least
just like everyone
thing.
does it.
Yeah. I really thought it was widespread, but then I started talking to people outside of my original school, and they were like, "We've never heard of this Playworks thing," which was really strange. But anyways, the basic gist of it was that there would be these coaches that came in, so they would be like teachers, but instead of like teaching curriculum or whatever, they would come in during like recess and lunch, and they would like help guide kids and teach kids about new playground games, and it was super awesome because we learned a bunch of new games from these people, and like not it wasn't only like teaching kids games. It was like promoting a healthy like lifestyle for kids and young people. There was all that stuff, and there was an after school program that I was in, and I really enjoyed that, and I might talk about that one day, but that's not really relevant here. But yeah, the main point was that there'd be coaches that came in and guided kids to play games, and occasionally they would even like ref some games if they
Oh, wow.
happened to be in the vicinity. So they were like the sole, like if we ever had a question about a game, we went to them, right? They were like the sole or authority on playground games, which kind of sounds weird now that I'm saying it aloud, that like an adult was the authority on playground games.
Yeah, that's interesting that they really like we're like coming in to be like, this is like different games that you guys can have, and I've never heard of that concept, and I think like if I was in elementary school, I wouldn't have liked it if that had come. But like thinking about it, like that is a very nice concept.
Yeah, I definitely it was very, I guess, normal to me in elementary school. It didn't feel weird. Like saying this aloud, it sounds like there could be like weird complications, but it definitely like it worked out for us. It promoted like positivity and friendship, and it promoted like different friendships and community within our little elementary school, and it just like brought, I definitely think at the very least it brought people together in ways that couldn't have happened without it. Because like, you know, before Playworks, as far as I can remember, but this was only in like second and third grade before Playworks, so I have a very hazy memory about this, but not as many people would be playing games on the playground. Most people would just play tetherball, as that was like the go-to like elite game. But after Playworks came in, there was just like such a variety of different games, and so many more people. Like most people would just like hang out on the play structure. I was definitely a big play structure kid when I was in elementary school. But many people like came off of the play structure and came out to just like play these games on the whole Blackscape with everyone else. And I think the Playworks brought a great direction to our elementary school.
That's awesome. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, no, it was really, really sick. Off the top of my head, I can remember that they taught us to play like Foursquare, different versions of tag, jump rope, and yeah, all kinds of things. I think in particular I really enjoyed Foursquare, and so for those that don't know what Foursquare is, you usually have a big box, and inside of that, or like drawn out on a blacktop, there will be a big box.
Square.
A big square, and it will be separated into four corners by drawing a line down the middle of both halves, I guess. So you have four squares, hence the name Foursquare. And so you would get one of those like bouncy playground balls, just like you would use for kickball or wall ball, and kind of similar in concept to wall ball. You would hit the ball to someone else's square, and you would let it bounce once, but instead of hitting a ball, obviously, you would just have the other person in that square have to hit the ball to somebody else's square.
Right.
I don't know if you had any kind of system like this in your elementary school, but we definitely like marked off different corners of like who was superior. Like there would be a very clear first, second, third, fourth place, and I vaguely remember something being like first place being like king, or like first and fourth place being like trash or something. There was some kind of like vague naming system to it, but I just remember that there was a ranking system to it. And all
for like where you are in the squares, you mean?
Yeah.
I think we had some. I don't think we called them king and trash. I think maybe king, but not trash. But I think we did have like if you got this place, this is where you go in the thing, or like if you just won that round, or if you got the point, like this is. I didn't play a ton of Foursquare. My best friend played a lot of Foursquare back then, and he was very into it. I did not play, but I respected the game a lot. I always wanted to get into it, but it was not quite the same for me.
Yeah, no, it was super fun. I mean the way the system worked wasn't like, oh, who could get the most eliminations or whatever. It was just like one corner was number one corner was number two, and if number two died, 3 and 4 would move up or whatever. And someone else would take the place. And what was interesting to me was that like all or almost all of the games on the playground, they had like lines to these games, which back then it like was completely normal to me, but thinking back on it now, like that's so surprising that so many people wanted to play all these games. There were lines for each game. And I remember in particular for some of the really long games, or sorry, for some of the really popular games, like you'd have to wait like a good 10, 15 minutes to get into the game. And then you could just get like instantly eliminated, and that's like kind of a big L for you. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, tetherball was definitely like the elite game of elementary school. If you were good at tetherball, you were like a cool kid, right? Oh, and for the folks at home, tetherball basically worked like you have a giant pole attached into the ground, and you have a string attached to the top of that pole, and going down like halfway down the pole, and I'd say the pole is like maybe 7 to 10 feet, somewhere around there.
Yeah, probably like 10 feet, I would say, tall.
Yeah. A string going down like pretty much to like neck height, I would say, of an average elementary schooler.
Oh, really? Ours was a little bit longer. Ours was definitely around like chest level.
It might have been around chest level, somewhere around chest to neck, I feel like. I don't remember exactly how long it was.
Right.
And so the way you win this wow, these are so weird now that I think about them so many years later, but it's so normal to me. Anyways, the way you win is there are two parts of the quote unquote court. Like there would be a circle drawn around this pole, and that represented the court, and it was split down the middle,
right.
Kind of like a Pokeball, I guess. And you had to stay in your own court. And the objective of the game was solely to get the ball to have its string wrapped all the way around the pole, so that if you hit it in one direction, it could no longer keep going, right? And so you had a designated direction depending on which side of the pole you were on. So like, for example, if you were on one side, you'd have to hit it to the left, and the other person would have to hit it to their left. Yeah. So this would be opposite directions.
Right.
I remember some kids like went off on this game. Like they were hitting it with speeds that like if you got hit by that ball, your head would like actually hurt.
Yeah, I got hit by that ball once when I tried to like learn tetherball. I did not like that game after that. It was not enjoyable. Every time someone like, because we had a couple kids who tetherball was very popular among like the younger kids, I would say. And some of those kids just like knew. I don't think it's even like a strength thing. I'm pretty sure it's just like an angle thing that you can start spinning it real fast if you get it at a certain angle. And that thing hurts, man. I was in a lot of pain for a while. And after that, like every time I tried to play, I was like, I'm too scared of getting hit by that thing. Like I'll just let them win. That's fine by me, you know? Like they deserve it at this point.
Yeah, no, those balls. Excuse the language, but those balls were surprisingly hard. Like those are not like your
those were
average,
not like the rubber bouncy balls. Those were like
no, not at all. Those were like harder than like volleyballs, something. I'd say.
Yeah.
Oh,
much harder than a volleyball because it was like it wasn't hollow. It was like solid.
Oh yeah.
It was definitely designed to like take impact, but like your skull wasn't. You know, like that's the. It was, oh my god, it was so heavy. Like, way too heavy for a spinning object.
But yeah, watching like intense matches of tetherball, so freaking crazy. Because when you see these like two children going at each other, hitting the ball at like freaking 100 miles an hour, going back and forth, and like pung, pung, pung. So it's like hard to keep track of, and it's so
very difficult,
crazy to watch. But yeah, just absolutely insane to watch that stuff. Let's see. Another big thing, and kind of what inspired the idea in my head was jump rope. I believe
Mm-hmm.
many mornings, because we had morning announcements in our elementary school.
Yeah.
Many mornings, when the Playworks program was introduced, they'd like the morning announcements would be like, oh, do a bunch of jump rope, and it's kind of silly looking back, but it was just like, it was just a small aerobics exercise for everybody in the school.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we were just made to do jump rope sometimes, but also I think a very much a favorite among the kids was I think it's called double dutch. No, wait, actually I think that's different.
Double
There was
Dutch
there
is
was
a jump rope thing.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
I
know if
know,
you're
but
thinking of a different one. Okay.
like double dutch, but with only one rope. I don't
Hmm.
know what to call that. Single dutch? I don't know.
Dutch.
Dutch. Sure, we'll call it Dutch
Yeah.
for the purposes of this podcast. So there was Dutch. Like people did double Dutch, but I think Dutch was much more popular.
Somebody in the comments will tell us what it is.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember specifically, in elementary school. Sorry, another side tangent, but in elementary
No, it's
school,
okay.
there
What's
was
this podcast
definitely
all
a big
about, James?
there was a big gender divide between the boys and girls, right?
Yeah.
The girls did their own thing, the boys did their own thing, and jump
Mhm.
rope or Dutch was definitely much more of a girls' thing.
Yeah.
But occasionally, like it did intermingle between boys and girls, and it was fun to see that. Because of that reason, though, I was like never any good at jump rope or
Yeah.
Dutch at all. So whenever I would join in on the game, I would always lose pretty fast. But for some reason, there's one memory of Dutch I have that still sticks with me to this day. It's a really random memory, but it's just still in my head. It was after school one day, and
Okay.
like the I don't remember if it was wintertime or just like pretty late in the day. But the sun, like it was starting to set, like the horizon was all like orange at this point. It's pretty
Okay,
pretty
wow.
actually. And it was just me and a couple of other friends. Most of the people had gone home at this point. And so it was just me and a couple of friends. I don't know why we decided to play Dutch, but we did.
Because it's
and-
the best game ever.
Yeah, I guess so. And we had no trouble finding any jump ropes because, there were kind of like jump ropes left all over the place after recess and lunch.
Right.
And so we just found a long jump rope and we started playing Dutch. And I remember the two girls in this group, they knew a little rhyme. And for the life of me, years after, when I still had this memory, I could not remember exactly what the rhyme was. I knew it had to do with the basic concept of they would say the rhyme and then they would go A, B, C to the rhythm of the jump rope. And whenever you like failed and like got hit by the jump rope, whatever letter you landed on, that was like the first letter of your crush or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. Because that was like a big thing in elementary school.
Ooh, it's still a big thing, James. Why are you saying something like the elementary? This is a big thing. Who was it? Tell us.
I don't remember what I landed on. I will be honest. It's probably something very early, so one of the first few letters, I'd imagine, because I was not very good at it. But I don't remember the exact letter. But just like a week ago, I decided randomly, I want to figure out what that rhyme was. And I did some digging. So you can
figure out who your crush is.
Yeah, exactly. So I figured it out. It goes like this. Ice cream soda, cherry on top.
Oh, yes.
Who's your boyfriend? I forgot. Is it an A, B, C? And then you keep going. And yeah, that was a kind of a childhood memory refulfilled for me. So that was a really interesting.
I think I remember that also. Now that you say that, I never played jump rope as an elementary schooler. Again, it was a very big gender divide back then, and so
right.
Definitely did not play jump rope, but I remember that was like a big thing, and people would be like, "Do you want to know who your crush is?" Like, I want to know. Like, let's do this, and it would be like, "Okay, I guess we're doing this."
Wow. Oh yeah, and Other than that, there were definitely many assorted like other than the actual Foursquare and wall ball, those kinds of games. They also just like I remember Playworks just kept this like cart of different balls, and they
We
would
had
bring it
that,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, it was super cool actually. Now that I think about it, every lunch and recess, they would just bring out this whole cart of balls, and people would like line up and just like take the balls that they want. Like the people that wanted to play football, grab the footballs, and people wanted to play soccer, grab the soccer balls. And the cart was like mostly empty within like 10-15 minutes. So that thing was like really popular.
We for wall ball we had a designated like runner each time to like run out of the
Really?
classroom and like get the ball for wall ball because there was like only a couple like really good balls that people wanted, and so like because you need to have a good bounce on them, you know, like you can't just have like any random ball. So so yeah, we had like a designated like person like run every single time to go get the ball because it was very important.
That's kind of sick, actually. I don't think we ever had anything like that for us. It was just like as many kids like clamored to try and get the balls as they could. But yeah,
Oh no, it was a clamoring thing. But what I mean is that there was like one kid in our wall ball group who would be like sprint to become the first one there to get the ball.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super cool, actually.
Yeah, it was very
that's
funny.
really
I remember one time I was the person I almost forgot, and I was just like running. It was
oh my god.
I felt so bad.
But yeah, I don't remember what I was gonna say. Whoopsie.
I want to go back to the the topic of like the lines for the playground games because I'm about to tell the story of the fall of wall ball at our school.
Oh no.
Yeah, so wall ball eventually dropped off very heavily. And the reason for that was that there were so many people who wanted to play wall ball. That eventually it became like a thing of like, okay, like here are the rules now. It's just that like there's gonna be a big group, obviously, and you just gotta like be aggressive and get to the ball. And if you don't, because there was a rule that we had called chicken, which was that you would just like if you stay away from the ball, you like if you're avoiding the ball the whole time and not hitting it, like you're out. And usually in those big groups, it was like harder for some of the like more shy people or like smaller people to get like to the front and hit the ball. And so there were complaints about that. And so what happened was that wall ball was then enforced. Like there were rules enforced. And the rules were like completely changed. Rainbows were not a thing anymore. You could have as many bounces as you want. There were only 5 people allowed on the court at a time. And everyone else had to line up next to the court before they got in. Handballs, which was like holding the ball and then like throwing it, was allowed now. And it was just the games now took like a million years because handballs made it very easy for everybody. No, like barely anybody got out. And you would just be sitting there waiting for like the whole lunch and you would not get in because it's just 5 people throwing the ball at the wall with their hands. And even if you did get in, it was like, okay, this is not enjoyable anymore. And there were like, and these rules were like posted on like, these were made by the adults, by the way. Like this is the adults like stepping in. Yeah, so I forgot to mention that. So this is the adults. People had complained to the adults. And so they were like, okay, this is the new rules. Which is why I thought Playworks is so cool because at least you have an adult like there like knowing what the game is like and what it means to people, and so they can like if they need to make rules, it's like new rules. It's like okay, this is accordingly made so that the game doesn't become boring anymore, you know. And maybe I'm being an old geezer and I've got too much love for the old wall ball game, but definitely it died out after that. Very few people except for like the people who had complained, like, we're now playing wall ball. And the wall ball courts were, like, empty for, like, a long, long time.
Damn, that's so sad.
Very saddening, yeah.
That's really interesting that, sorry, this is a very particular aspect of this.
Yeah.
I totally forgot to mention this, but in our wall ball games, it was always 1v1 from the very start. It was never
really?
like multiple people were never allowed on a court. It like
Interesting.
if
So it was a
multiple
King of the
people,
Hill format.
yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And multiple people on the court, we were just like it's too crowded and
Yeah,
hard to get stuff done
that's
because
understandable.
I don't know how big your court was, but in our elementary school, we had this like random wall that I'm pretty sure was placed there for wall ball. I'm pretty sure it was,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just like it wasn't like the wall of a side of a building or anything. It was just a wall erected in the middle of the playground,
Yeah.
and it was like I want to say I don't know, like 15 feet wide, 15, 20 feet wide,
Mm-hmm.
maybe yeah, maybe around there, and like 15, 10 to 15 feet tall. And so the size of the court was definitely not enough to handle a ton of players at once.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because, like I said, we had these long lines. Like the lines would always like be at one side of the court, and so if you had multiple people running around in there, there was much bigger of a risk that you would just run into the line and just like knock down a bunch of people. So,
Right.
but yeah, that's really it's really interesting that the adults came in and were like, "This is how it will be played now." Um,
Well, I mean, I understand where they came from, and I think that they're looking back on it. At the time, I was very, very upset about it, but looking back on it, like, definitely not as many people, like, the rich stayed rich. Like, that was, like, the way that it worked. Is that, obviously I wasn't bothered by the whole issue that was coming up because I was one of the better players, and people were like, okay, we want to play with this person, or like, which didn't usually happen, but first, for once, they were like, we want to play with this person, and so just like the 20 people who were like best at wall ball were like usually the ones that were just there playing it, and generally a game generally by like the later before it started getting like change the rules were changed and everything, a game of wall ball started out with like I want to say like 25 people maybe, and they all just crowded around, but people would like quickly get picked off by like the chicken rule because they weren't hitting the ball or they weren't getting the chance to hit the ball, and then it would just always fall down to like the 7 players that
right.
were usually in the top playing. Yeah, it was definitely discriminatory, but we did have a lot of walls. We had 2 walls, I think, for the 4th to 5th graders. So they were separated by age, 4th to 5th graders, and then like another wall for the 2nd and 3rd graders, and then another one for like 1st and 2nd graders.
Wow.
So plenty of walls to play wall ball on. But yeah, it definitely dropped off after those rules because people just weren't, and it was just not as competitive or as fast paced. And no rainbows was definitely, it was a rule that like we'd argued about a lot before because some people really didn't like rainbows. Like I originally didn't love rainbows because I was so bad at them and they always like screwed me over. But eventually like we were okay with it. There was this one girl who was like 3rd on the PR, our unofficial PR, and she played wall ball maybe like once a week. Was not like the other people in the top 10 played like almost every day. She only played like once a week. But this girl was like the skinniest girl I've ever seen. And for some reason she could rainbow under like any ball ever. And she was also the fastest person at our school. Like she was like super, super fast. So she was just like the rainbow goddess. Like she would get to a ball like I told you about our top 1 player, like his play. She would do that like almost every single time she played. It's just like she would just like someone would hit the ball real hard and it was a mistake. Like this girl, you had to play a whole different play style, which is why she was like so high on the thing because you had to play in the God. Why is this like the most competitive I've ever been about any game ever? I feel like even Smash Brothers, I'm not like this good at strategizing like play styles. No, this girl you could not play like out off the court. You had to play like in the paint, like play very small ball, like keep it close to the wall. Because she struggled with hitting the ball like well enough, but her rainbows were just phenomenal. So if you like hit it all the way out, she was like, well, it's over for you. And she just like sprint out there and immediately rainbow before you can even like finish like your swinging from hitting the ball way out there. And you're like, well, that's a GG.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
I that's so crazy that it was so competitive back then that there was.
And
like
again, it wasn't
like,
I mean, the PR thing was not like a official school. It was like me and like a couple of friends. We just like made this, and we were like, this is probably like how it should go, like how it would go.
No, yeah, that makes sense. But still, like just having somebody that like completely shakes up, I guess, the meta, you could call it.
Yeah, which is I never. I mean, again, back then I wasn't like the meta game is changing, but I was like, okay, I need to make the ball smaller. But now that I can like say it in those words, I'm like, yeah, this is she. You had to change your playstyle around against this girl. She only came like once a week, and then she would just like dominate the scene. Other than our top guy, who was just dominating every day. But
that's so awesome.
Another thing that sorry, this is a quick thing. Another thing that I really liked about wall ball is that like there's the rule that like whoever didn't or like misses the last hit like gets out. We never really had any arguments about that. Like, now that I think about it, like, definitely there could have been a lot of problems caused by, like, I was trying to hit it, but there was this person in the way, or, like, I was going to do this, but this and this, or, like, I'm not closest to it, he's closest to it. But generally, like, people were respectful of it. Were very calm about it. There was not a lot of, as far as I can remember, not a lot of, like, people who were mad about certain calls on certain things. Like, people were generally like, okay, yeah, that was me. I missed it, which very
awesome.
impressive for elementary school children, I would say.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, going back to the whole like adults coming in thing. I think it is rather funny that our wall ball experiences are kind of like opposites in that way. Whereas like adults came in to our wall ball games and like made it awesome and
yeah, exactly. That's what I when you talked about Playworks, I was like, wow, I really wish we'd had someone like that, like fixing our wall ball games.
But also, yeah, like that is a pretty surprising for elementary schoolers. But that does kind of remind me of another thing that Playworks pushed back to the whole ball cart. You'd imagine like elementary schoolers to like not care about leaving balls all over the place in the field or in the blacktop or whatever. But Playworks like really pushed us to like bring balls back. And even though like jump ropes, I feel were left out quite a bit more, like the balls like were definitely like brought back to the cart much more frequently than I would have expected.
Yeah, we had a rule that was like, if you didn't bring the ball, if like more than 3 balls were missing, or like 3 or more balls were missing, the cart just wouldn't come out the next day.
Oh, yeah.
Which was like,
I feel like that sounds really familiar to me. We might have had a rule like that too. I'm not entirely sure.
Everyone would have been very sad if that happened, and everyone was sad when it happened a couple times.
Yeah. Sometimes it does happen, but funnily enough, another thing about Playworks and their whole after-school program, at the end of the year, I think this was in 5th grade, the Playworks program actually like came out with this book, and
I want to read this book.
It was a very back then I read a lot, so of course I had to pick up this book and get it. It was a very this is going to completely deviate from the topic now, but it was a crazy book. It was absolutely insane. So the main plot, it was first of all.
Oh, was that like a fictional book?
It was a fictional book, yes.
Oh,
yes.
I thought it was like a. I thought you were gonna be like, yeah, it was like how to play wall ball, but then they were like, kill your opponent or something.
At the very end of the book, it did have like a good like 20 to 30 pages about different like schoolyard games that you could play and instructions on how to play that. But that was at the end of the book. So I'm going to talk about the fiction part of it, the plot part of it right now.
The story.
So
Spoilers
again,
for the Playworks book.
Yes, spoilers. Let me see if I can find the name actually. Playworks book. Nothing is coming up on. No, I don't recognize any of these.
Damn.
This is weird. This is not coming up on Google. Okay, whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was called. But the plot went something like this. And remember, I read this back in elementary school, so the plot might be a little hazy. But the book starts off with a guy getting in a car crash with his brother, and his brother dies and goes to heaven.
Oh my god! That's the start of the book.
That's the start of
That's
the
how
book.
they open.
Yeah, and there's this whole big point. I think the book was. I can't remember actually if the book was told from the brother that lived perspective or the brother that got sent to heaven. I don't remember whose perspective it was told from. Maybe both. But there's a whole like big point in the book that the brother who lived, his like biggest regret from that was that the two brothers were like in an argument before they got in the car crash.
Oh, classic.
The last thing that he said to his brother was "I hate you" before they got in the crash, and he died. So he
said "I hate you," and he was like, "Welp," and then he just smashed the car.
time to crash the car. But yeah, he like regrets this for his like whole life and is like super depressed about it. And a lot of the book is just about his like his journey to try and like redeem himself and try
Oh my god!
his brother to tell him that like he didn't mean it, like he loved his brother and he really regretted that the last thing he had to say to him was "I hate you." And the brother actually becomes an angel in heaven and starts like looking over his brother who's alive. As sort of an
Is this at all related to playground games? Is this gonna like the story?
Yes, I will get to
I mean the story
in a second.
of this. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
So yeah, his brother is like kind of like a guardian angel, and I think he comes back down to Earth a few times, acting as like a regular person. Although now I'm not even sure if I'm like
This
getting
is a really not even like the dying and like coming back, but like there's a lot of moving parts here that like I feel like I would not understand as a child.
I honestly, to be honest, I was very confused about this book as a child too. I did not like it. I thought this book was like way too adult for me. But okay, at this point in the story, I will be honest, I'm not entirely sure if some of these plot elements were from the book or from this fan fiction that one of my friends wrote in middle school.
About
so
Playworks.
take this. No, it was about angels and devils, but the concept is kind of muddled together.
Two
right
very
now,
interesting things to mix up.
So yeah, I think
Spoilers possibly for that fan fiction, by the way.
Sorry, folks. Sorry. I think the angel comes down to Earth and poses as a regular human and starts working as a Playworks coach in one of the local elementary schools. And like the brother,
so it's propaganda. They're saying their Playworks coaches are angels.
Yes, I think so. At least I can't be sure. And for some reason, like the brother has like some affiliation with this elementary school. I can't remember if he was like fostering a child or had a little cousin that went there, but there was some like connection there. And basically, I don't remember the exact details, but it's like through the power of Playworks and teaching people to play games, like this man was able to get over his grieving and reconcile with his dead brother, and basically like, and his brother forgives him, and like they are able to make up, and he's able to live his life happier because of Playworks games. Yeah. So absolutely insane plot. lot of it definitely flew over my head as an elementary schooler, and that's
A
evident
lot of it
because
is flying over my head right now as a college student.
Yeah. Maybe misinterpreted the plot a little bit. It's very possible. I'll get back to you folks on that. If I can
Yeah, well,
ever
if we
find that
find it,
book
we'll put a
again.
link in the description below, and you can buy that
Yes.
book.
It should be in this bookshelf, like right behind me, but I'm taking a glance and I just can't see it. So unfortunate, but whatever.
I'm sure we'll
but yeah,
find
that
it.
was
Wow, that is crazy. That they released a book. It was about the death of a someone, like at all. There was death involved at all. And then they come back as a Playworks coach and be like, I'm gonna make your life better. And then they're just like, yeah, it did. That's insane.
Yeah, just a little beautiful.
Do you remember specifically like what playground games like made this child happy again?
I don't remember specifically, unfortunately. It was just like I remember it was like general games that Playworks taught us, but not the specific games. Yeah, that should have been the capstone or the end of my memories of Playworks, because that was released at like the very end of my 5th grade year. So that should be the last memory of how to Playworks. But thankfully, there was a lot more.
I can't believe that was your final like capping point on Playworks.
Well, it wasn't, and I'm getting to that in just a second.
Oh, okay.
Thankfully, there was a much more like joyful memory associated, lighthearted memory associated with the last time I interacted with Playworks.
Okay.
So something I didn't mention about Playworks because I'm just now remembering it. We had these like junior coaches, I believe they were called, something like that. They were like little, I don't know what to call them, assistants to the actual Playworks coaches, or like interns or something. They would have these like jerseys or shirts on them. I don't remember exactly what, but that like designated them as like actual like Playworks people. And so they would basically like help out the coach with like reffing games sometimes or teaching kids how to play games. They would help out with the ball cart. And sometimes we would even be excused early to be able to help out. And in 5th grade, I was one of these junior coaches. So that was really fun.
Oh, okay.
And
did you love it?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. Yeah, it was really fun because I enjoyed working with Playworks. I remember this one time where close to our school or somewhere in the city of Santa Clara, they were like burning down a plant, some kind of like recycling plant maybe, or a fossil fuel plant. I don't remember exactly what they were burning down, but something was burning down within the area. And so we were told to stay inside of our classroom the whole day, and not to go outside because they had like toxic carbon dioxide gas in the air or whatever.
Yeah.
So we had to stay inside, and we watched movies for most of that day. But for some reason, we still had Playworks coach duties that day, so we still had to go outside and like help the coach out with whatever. And like the air obviously wasn't like so toxic that you couldn't go outside or else you'd die or whatever, or you needed a mask or whatever.
Right.
But to my little childhood brain, I thought like every time I took a breath when I was outside, I was like gonna die in
understandably
less years. So that was kind of a scary moment. But thankfully, I did not die that day.
What was your favorite thing to teach?
What's my favorite thing to teach? I honestly like. I really enjoyed Foursquare in general. I felt like it was a fair, even game that I wasn't trash at. And it was very accessible for everyone.
Yeah.
Like I said, wall ball wasn't my strong suit, and tetherball was just too much for me.
Oh yeah.
So
I think Foursquare was like generally like overall the like longest lasting, most popular game. I don't think there was ever a time that there weren't lines at Foursquare. Like even while wall ball was popular, like most people who like didn't like my best friend who I mentioned earlier who played Foursquare, like he didn't like wall ball. And he was definitely in like the elites of elites. What a word. The elites of the Foursquare community.
Elite
And so he was always playing
Foursquare.
Foursquare usually.
That's
Um,
awesome.
so it was still like booming while why are we talking about this like it's like a some sort of like business like thing? It's just elementary school. But they were like I mean this was like life back then, you know? This is like the highlights of your day. Like I
Oh
guess of
yeah,
course we're
definitely.
talking
This
about
was your whole life,
this.
man. You didn't have to worry about taxes or college. It was just about who was the best at Foursquare, man. It was
Oh,
sick.
yes. Wow.
Um, but yeah, I remember as a Playworks coach,
Mm-hmm.
the coach during the summer of fifth grade actually was able to uh, take us to go to Great America,
Oh wow.
which was super sick. For those that don't know, I live very close to Great America. I live within like 20 minutes walking distance of Great America, and my elementary school was not that far away either. So it was a very, very quick drive to, or I don't know if it was a drive. I don't remember how exactly we got there, but
You probably walked.
we probably. Um, but yeah, we went to Great America, just like the few of us. I don't even think there were too many. Maybe like 6 or 7 or 8 kids, and this one coach as our chaperone. So it was just super. It was so nice. This was the first, for reference, this was the first time I'd ever gone to Great America. I'd heard so many like great things about Great America from all the other kids. Like it was like a Disneyland, but much closer and less
Mm-hmm.
expensive. I just heard so many crazy cool things about it, and I had always wanted to go.
Right.
And this was my one opportunity. Like my mom would never take me because it was too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to go and I had the time of my life. This was definitely one of the like best memories of my whole life. My first time going to
Oh
Great
wow.
America. Yeah, I because a bunch of
Do you
the
remember like the
other
very
kids.
first ride you went on?
I don't remember the very first ride I went on. I maybe it was the observation tower. I'm not sure. I
I
don't
don't know
even
any of the
how that
rides. I'm
was.
sure somebody in the comments is going like, "I love the observation tower." I'm not a roller coaster person, so I wouldn't know.
Well, I don't know if you.
Is that different from the drop tower?
That's different than drop tower. Yes,
Is
it's
it
just
like the
that,
drop tower, but there's no dropping happening?
but there's no dropping. No, I don't know if we can really even count it as a ride, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
But I remember the drop tower. I remember taking the drop tower when, or that day, and I remember that was the greatest, most fun experience I had had in so long.
Really?
I loved it so much. And I know drop tower is definitely not a lot of people's thing, but for me, it was such a thrill. I had not gotten a thrill like that since I had. So I believe I've mentioned this to some people, but we had a gigantic play structure at our school, right? And I said
Ooh.
that earlier.
Okay.
And there was this like giant loopy slide that went
Mm-hmm.
very high, and that was like basically the top point of the whole
School.
play structure.
Yeah.
Or yeah, around the like highest point of the school, I'd say actually.
Mm-hmm.
This was definitely taller than some of the buildings at our school, and I want to say like in my head as an elementary schooler, I want to say it was like 17, 18 feet up high. But again, I was an elementary schooler. It was definitely very high, and I have revisited since then, and I definitely think it was at least 3 times my height now. So yeah, it was it was a very tall slide, and I remember towards the or well, it was common culture for people to like jump off of the slide or like hang off of the slide, and just
Mm-hmm.
like dangle there. And I believe we called those extremes. I don't know why, really dumb name, but
Extremes.
it was just common culture to jump off
Wow.
of
We
slides
really
and
had
hang off of slides.
very strict rules against that. It was like
Really?
if you did that, you were getting in big trouble real fast.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, we did not have quite as much restrictions about that. But for the long slide, I remember no one ever like dared to like jump off at the top because it was just that high. But like people would go from the middle or whatever. And I remember at the end, like the last week of elementary school, I think me and like two of my bestest, closest friends were playing around in the play structure, and we're like, let's jump off from the top, and it will be like the super mega extreme or whatever we decided to call it. And
Did you
and
actually?
we did.
Wow.
I was very apprehensive and afraid at first, but after jumping off, it just gave me a rush like no other. And that drop tower just gave me a very parallel rush to that, but like even
More dropping.
even more. Exactly.
Wow, I do not think I could ever. I'm like imagining it, and I'm not happy about it. Like good for you that you're able to do that, but I'm just like, I would not enjoy doing that at all.
I actually remember that day when we went to Drop Tower. A lot of kids had not tried it out yet, understandably, and so there was one run through, and for some reason there were like no lines at this point in day. I don't know why. I think it was rather early. I don't know.
Probably during a weekday also, so not a lot of people.
Perhaps. I don't remember exactly, but
Six Flags.
There was no lines, and there was so yeah, a bunch of kids went on the drop tower the first time, but after they tried it once, they were like, I don't like that, I don't want to do it again. So there was just me and this one girl that I was pretty close to at the time, I'd say. And we were the only ones that were like, yeah, that ride was the best. And so
everyone else was like me. They were like, please.
Yeah, it's kind of an L. So yeah, we were just there. It was just me and her going around for a second time, and I don't know, that moment was just so awesome
kissed.
and special. And then we kissed, and then that
and now you're
is
married.
why I'm a teenage father.
Oh. No.
Just kidding, folks. Don't do that. That's bad. Living skills says this is bad, so that's bad. Yes. Don't do that.
Definitely wait a little while before you become a father, if you're planning on doing that. Moving on.
But yeah, we went on a bunch of other rides. I remember the other more
this is really awesome
ride.
that they just kind of let you guys go on this trip. I mean,
yeah, like thinking back on it, it's just this is like so like free, and
free at like just an element. I mean, we had a Great America trip in 8th grade, and we were like, we were allowed to go around the park at that time, but like that was 8th grade. Like that was like 3 years later than, which I guess is not a lot of time, but as a kid, that's a lot of time. It's a lot of maturing happening in the brain,
But yeah, no, I mean, I don't think this was like an official sanctioned trip by the school. This was just like the Playworks coach, obviously. And
he just offered to pay for all these children's tickets.
I don't remember if he actually offered to pay for us or if we had to pay for ourselves. I don't remember. Whatever. But yeah, it was just a cool group of like 7 or 8 kids, not an entire classroom. So
it was just like 7 or 8 kids. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was just the junior coaches, not like a whole class of kids. So
I see. Sorry, I must have missed that. My bad.
But yeah, it was much more like casual than a regular school trip. So I think that's why we were much more lenient.
That makes sense.
The other things I can remember from that trip were there was one of the rides. I don't remember exactly which ride this was, but everyone wanted to go on it except for these 2 kids. And these 2 kids were in a quote-unquote relationship because everyone was in relationships in elementary school. There's this guy and this girl. And they didn't want to go on the ride for whatever reason. So they sat at the bottom, and they were kind of like sitting on one of the benches and like holding hands the whole time and talking or whatever. Wow. Just doing what elementary schoolers think are couple things. And
holding hands and talking is not that far off, actually. So looks like they were on the right track.
And I remember after we got off from the ride, and came down, we were like poking fun at them and making jokes. And one thing to note about this coach that was guiding us around the trip, definitely not like a teacher vibe, definitely much more of like a cool uncle kind of vibe. And I very specifically remember saying like, or him saying like, ooh, we saw you guys like making out, and they were like, oh my god, no, ew, that's disgusting. And I just thought that was super, super funny.
And then they started making out.
And then they started making out right on the spot, and we're like, oh my goodness. But yeah, that was funny. And then we went on Gold Striker, which is a
I hope those
giant...
people are listening to this podcast and they're like, God damn it, like why did I ever date so and so, quote unquote date so and so.
Yeah, we went on Gold Striker, which for those that don't know, it's like a giant wooden roller coaster as opposed to like the modern roller coasters we have today.
Mm-hmm.
That was really fun as well.
Clickety clackety click click.
Very fast, very intense. I think we had to wait on a much longer line for that one, but
yeah, that one's a pretty popular one from what I know.
Yeah, just all around a highlight of my life, a very awesome trip.
That's awesome. That sounds like a really fun. That's a very enjoyable sounding trip, especially for you. I would feel like you would love.
Yeah, no, it was so cool. Just like
that. Especially like if that's your first time.
Especially because it didn't feel like a school trip. It felt like a group of friends with a cool chaperone going to Great America.
It's not like someone's mom or something. It's like
yeah,
I'm responsible for you guys, but I'm also like not responsible for you guys.
Yeah. So luckily nothing went wrong, so that's good. Yeah. But it was super fun. And that was the capstone to my Playworks career.
Wow, that's a lovely capstone instead of that strange book about that child dying. Which again, link in the description below to buy that book. If we find the link to the description.
If we can find it.
Yeah, I hope we can.
Do you have anything else to say?
No, I mean I remember, I guess like the final game like in my Playground Games life was not even on the playground. It was more of a field game, which was like Mafia Tag or like Infection Tag.
Infection Tag.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's called different things at different areas. We called it Mafia mostly, I think.
That's real interesting. I've never heard it as Mafia Tag.
Yeah. Which is basically, it's basically, I think the more common name now that I've like talked about it to more people is actually Infection Tag. And basically, one person starts as it, then goes around and has to tag every single other person in the game, and everyone has to be it for the game to finally be over. And that was a very popular game after Wall Ball ended. And it even like went into my middle school years, but it also quickly like died out because Playground Games were just not the thing anymore, and we sweated a lot more, and going into class all sweaty was not the move. But yeah, Infection Tag was definitely very popular, and it got like big crowds. It was like basically like half of, if not more, of our 5th grade class would be like just playing, and like would all meet up in the center of the field at the start of lunch. And then
so cool.
I think it was like whoever won the last game, like whoever was like the last person standing, how the last game would like go, and be it. Or like if there was a volunteer, because not a lot of people wanted to. Some people actually really liked being it. I did not like being it. I had like a foot injury at the time, so I wasn't, or I had a foot injury, so I wasn't as fast. I was definitely much better at like hiding, or like juking people out, but like chasing people down, I was like no, I was not the move. But yeah, that was a very popular game, and I can't say that I have a ton of like memories like Wall Ball associated with it, but like that was definitely a game that took up a lot of my time.
That's so cool that like
5th grade.
That's so cool that like half of your grade was able to play that, because I remember our games of Infection Tag. Like Infection Tag definitely was not like a mainstay game. It was like a subset of Tag, which I'd say Tag was a mainstay game with its various versions. But you'd only get like a max of like 10 to 15 people at a certain time.
Really? No, this was
Yeah.
like our games were like they'd take all of lunch. If not, they would just like
Yeah.
not go on. They would be all lunch. We'd be like running all over the campus. Literally everywhere was grounds to like go to.
That's
So like you could be
crazy.
on the blacktop, and people would just be like ducking through people and like dodging through. I remember one time I like hid in a wall ball game, like while people like
Oh,
ran around me, and then finally like one person came in and I quickly like hit the ball back and like ran, trying to get away.
that's so awesome.
Yeah, no, they were very very fun games. Very very long though. Like sometimes you would be like hiding for like the whole lunch, and then you'd be like, well, I won, I guess. And then we had like a hands up if you're not it, or maybe hands crossed. Yeah, hands crossed if you're not it, because it means no, and hands up if you are it. And so like you could flash that to see like if the person running at you was it or not. And so it's just like so terrifying to be like hands crossed at somebody like and like slowly backing away from them as they're like kind of slowly jogging towards you, and then they kind of like evilly smile and put their hands up, and you're like, oh crap, you gotta run out of there. Um, yeah, Chaos Tag was everyone. I think Wall Ball definitely I had more
Right.
fun, but Chaos Tag I cannot deny I did enjoy quite a bit also.
Oh, now you're calling
Um,
it chaos tag.
But not Chaos Tag. Chaos Tag is very different.
What's
Chaos
chaos
Tag is the one where you tag people and they go down, right?
Is it? I don't believe I've played a game like that.
Chaos Tag is when people like if you whoever you tag they all go down, but if someone tags you, then all the people you tagged get back up.
Oh, yes, yes. I'd have played something like that.
That is
I don't remember
I
if
think
it was-
called Chaos Tag.
I don't
But yeah,
remember
this
if it
was
called
a
chaos.
mafia / infection. Infection. There was another disease for it. It was like not amoeba. Maybe it was amoeba.
Amoeba. Oh,
Amoeba.
that's a very interesting name for an elementary school game.
Yeah, because it was like if you tag someone like they become part of the amoeba or something.
That makes sense, I guess.
It wasn't
I-
amoeba though. It was like some weird like infectious name. Amoebas aren't infectious, but like on that plane. Maybe amoeba was the name, and I just can't remember. But yeah.
Dude, I would have loved to play in that kind of game, like a giant battle royale style
Oh
game.
yeah, actually yeah, it was like a big battle royale. Actually, that's a very good way of putting it. That's what it felt like. I guess that's how.
so
That's
awesome.
I guess that's why people like battle royales. It's like that's what it feels like. Wow. Oh, that makes so much more sense now. Oh my
You're
god.
welcome.
Wow.
Yeah, in our infection tag games, we didn't have anything like to signal if somebody was it or not. Like if you directly asked somebody, there was like an honor code to be honest about it. But
Yeah.
like somebody could be like coming up to you and be like, oh, I just got away from somebody, and then you're like, oh, tough luck, and then they just tag you, and you're like, L.
See, like people were getting a little tired of that, and like verbally was like not working anymore because people would be like, "Sorry, I couldn't hear you until I got close enough." So we put in the hands thing so that people could guess like know from a distance. That way, it wasn't just like I'm gonna what you said like, "Oh man, just got away from them." Like, thank God, and then just like smack them. You're like, you're it now. Because I remember before we instigated the hand rule, somebody like went around and was like, "I'm gonna pretend to be it, but I'm not it."
Right.
And then they were like, "I just won the game because I pretended to be it the whole time." And then they were like, "Did you tag anybody?" Or they were like, "No." They were like, "How do we know that you weren't it?" And then it just got too confusing. So we had the hands up, cross down. You had to be honest, and if you weren't honest, you were just kind of shunned for life.
That makes
Which
sense.
someone did get shunned for life. They're still
Oh.
being shunned to this day.
L to them.
Have you heard of Greg Thomas?
No, not personally.
Exactly.
Oh wow. Okay. Gosh dang. Oh, remind me never to cross elementary schoolers in mafia tag, bro.
I'm reminding you to never talk to Greg Thomas again.
Of course. I'm kind of surprised that there was like this level of organization between the elementary schoolers. Like, I don't know if like
Yeah, I am
the kids
too. Thinking about it, like, how did we instigate double bounce rainbows? And everybody was like, yeah. And like the hands up, crossed arms, like, yeah, everyone's cool with that. And like yeah, you're gonna go run and get the ball today, yeah. Like,
Yeah, there's like a whole system for this.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed actually.
I'm impressed too, thinking back on it. Like, wow, we had some smart elementary schoolers in
Yeah.
our grade. I'm very lucky to have had that. Like could have just been like, let's throw rocks at each other or something. Like,
I guess
wow.
Paul Alto just produces the best of the best.
Ugh, Paul Alto is the elite force.
We love Paul Alto. Speaking of tag, like I said, we had a couple different versions of it. My favorite was I think it was called Hide and Go Seek, which
How do you go seek tag?
yeah, Hide and Go Seek tag. I really enjoyed that because you had the hiding aspect, which I enjoyed from tag. But if you were
Right.
found, you could still fight for your life. Or sorry, you had the hide and go. You had the hide from hide and seek. But you could still run and like get away from your captor. So I really enjoyed that as a system.
I think that's just how tag should be played.
You think so? Really?
Well, like, okay, maybe not. I guess I'm thinking about, have you ever seen like the competitive tag, like the actual
Yes.
like, ugh, yeah,
Yes, I
that's
have
actually very
seen
cool.
that.
I understand that now a lot. But hide and go seek tag, I think, is like how hide and seek should be played. Sorry, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That I agree with you. I think it's much more fun than regular hide and seek.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I have a soft spot for hide and seek because that's a game that me and my cousins play a lot. Like even to this day, like I've played hide and seek recently.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, me as just like 6 foot tall man, I had to find areas to hide in. It was it was not good. Yeah, and we were inside a house though, so we couldn't like do the tag aspect because we're in a house and there's other people and we can't just like run around. But yeah, I mean, I think hide and seek is probably one of the games that people forget about as a kid. Like I totally forgot about it until just now that you said, and that was like
Really?
a very fun game.
I feel like personally, at least for me, hide and seek was like hide and seek and tag are like the two stereotypical kids games.
They are
like,
definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, other versions of tag we had freeze tag. I don't remember, to be honest, I don't remember exactly what the rules were. If you were tagged,
Freeze tag, yeah. If you get tagged, you're frozen, and then someone can untag you to unfreeze you.
yes, I think that's how it worked.
Yeah.
And actually, that might have been it. I can't remember any
Yeah, I'm
other.
trying to think of another. I keep thinking of different. I'm like, oh, the Doctor Tag, but that's actually Doctor Dodgeball, not Doctor Tag.
Oh, dodgeball! Oh, dodgeball was an awesome game.
We mostly had it as a PE thing. We didn't have it as a playground game.
Yeah. I think it was mostly a PE thing. But now that I think about it, I can't believe I completely skipped over this. I'm pretty sure Playworks like organized games of dodgeball as well.
That's awesome.
There was this like court in the middle of the blacktop that was usually used for like volleyball, but sometimes during lunch, I don't think that us as elementary schoolers were organized enough to set up our own dodgeball game. But sometimes the coaches would be like, okay, there's going to be a dodgeball game hosted today at lunch, and we would all be like, yes, and like they'd set up like they'd set up all the balls, and they'd like be like 3, 2, 1, go, and like it was dodgeball was freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great.
One of my favorite games.
Dodgeball definitely is one of the great games of childhood.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, whenever you got dodgeball in PE in any grade, you were like, "This is a good day." Unless you were one of the people who hated PE, which is like, yeah, I understand. But I was a big PE lover way back in the day because it was just playing usually, and I liked to play.
Yeah.
A lot more than
that is
school.
very fair. Elementary school PE didn't. I was like kind of neutral to it. All I really remember from it is that every month we had to run a mile, and the mile made me very out of breath. So that made me sad, and I was like, I don't want to run a mile.
Yeah, every month we had to run a mile too. I used to be the second fastest kid at our school after the aforementioned fastest girl. And she was like,
That's crazy.
she was running like sub 6-minute miles.
What
Like,
the heck? In
back then.
elementary school?
Yeah. And we were like I was ahead of everyone else, but like it was close. But like this girl would be running and she'd be like lapping us. I remember specifically multiple times she'd lap us in like different miles. She'd be like, "Okay, this is my last lap," and we're like, "We're on the second to last lap. How'd you do that?"
What the? Oh my god. She must have like went into track or something.
I think
There's
she
no
did.
way.
I think she did.
Wow. That's very impressive.
I did
I don't
not
think
I did not follow up with her after
it's a shame.
elementary school ever, but I do know that she did track.
You should give her a call.
Give her a call. Be like,
Give
hey,
her
you
a
should
call.
check out the podcast. They talk about you a lot. You know, you were a rainbow goddess and also track and field star in elementary school. And she's like, yeah, well, everything sucks in my life right now. And we're like, oh,
No.
sorry.
Well, that's how you check up on your friends, folks. If you have a friend in elementary school that you think about a lot, you should talk to them because
I don't think about this person a lot. I mean, no offense to this person, but you put me in an awkward position here, James.
Sorry. Well, I'm just saying, folks.
I did, this is a very off-topic thing. I did message my elementary school crush the other day, though.
Aw, that's so cute.
Well, basically, me and my two best friends from elementary school, who I'm still best friends with today, we were all going through some old photos. And then we were like, let's stalk all of these people on Instagram. And we were like, how are they? Like, where are they? And this girl, my crush, we'll call her, we'll call her Ashley for the sake of this. So I don't have to keep saying this girl I had a crush on. Ashley had on her Instagram page that she had graduated already. And this was, or she had a post from 2 years ago that she had graduated already. And she was in the same grade as us, and we were like, what? Like, how did this happen?
Wow.
And we were like searching through her Instagram to see like where she graduated from, like how she did it, like what the thing was, because this girl was like she's a professional ice skater.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so she and if you know anything about people who do professional, and she was an ice skater back then when I knew her. She had like clearly pursued it professionally now, even more so. And if you know anything about people who do professional skating, they are on the road a lot. A lot.
Makes sense.
And very busy people. And so I was like, how did she graduate from high school like 2 years early? Like, how did that
biggest
occur?
brain.
Apparently she had like a separate university that she went to. She graduated from there. It was like a smaller, like shorter time. And then, because she was on the move, so she could only like stay there. So that apparently that would have. So we were like trying to figure it out from like photos and like her friends from that school that she was in, the image that she tagged. And finally I was like, I'm just going to message her. And I messaged her this long paragraph and I was like, hey, like, I don't mean to be weird, but like, I don't know if you remember me from elementary school. I wasn't trying to stalk you or anything, but we kind of were. And we were just wondering, like, how did she graduate from high school so early? And I wasn't like, how? Because she totally could have. She was the type of person who could have. But I was like, what was the journey, you know? Was what we were curious. Anyway, so, very weird tangent. I don't even remember how it came up, but yeah.
That's so funny.
You should message your high school crush now.
Oh, maybe I will.
Maybe we'll invite her on the podcast. See what she says. We'll be like, yeah, I'd love to talk about ice skating. Oh, dude, that would be great if she could talk about professional ice skating with us and we could like interview her.
That'd be sick.
Oh my god, I'm gonna message her again and I'm gonna be like, do you want an interview on our podcast?
So I'm assuming you guys had like a whole conversation and like she responded.
So yeah, no, she responded and she was like, yeah, this is she was like, oh no, like not at all, like it's great to like hear from people in elementary school, Yeah, this girl, I mean, so my mother has been going through a lot of our old, like, stuff from elementary school, like our papers and things. And there were these, like, uh, letters that she has from, like, her to me that are,
Wow.
at the time that I didn't make anything of it because, like, I mean, I liked this girl, but I didn't realize that she, like, liked me back as much as she did.
Aww.
And they all are like covered in hearts and like
Oh my
there's like
god.
pictures that she's drawn and given to me of like her giving me like balloons and stuff and
Oh
it's
my
like
god.
and she drew she there's like a book that we have of like our pictures of us and our families and like everything's like scanned I think and like or no, I have a memory. Okay, I have a memory. No, it wasn't like a picture. I have a memory. We had to like draw or like paint pictures of our families or something. And she drew like her and her family. But then she also drew me in the background. And I remember at the time that she had just like given me like the most emo looking bangs and stuff. And she was like, "And you're here too, Armand." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And I like I didn't include her in my family.
Oh no.
I already finished and turned it in, and she came with me. She showed me that, and I was like, "Oh,
So sad.
that's very nice of you."
Oh my god.
Yeah, she was apparently we were both very children infatuated with each other.
That's so
Yeah, it
cute. Oh
was
my
very funny.
goodness.
This has taken a very
Um,
weird turn on the podcast. If you're listening, Ashley, not actually Ashley. Let's talk. We can take this episode down if we want. Moving back, James, is there anything else you'd like to say about playground games?
um no, not particularly. I guess it's going to
Yeah.
going into the future, it and coming to Palo Alto, it was
Mhm.
rather surprising to me seeing many elementary schools having many of the same exact things that I had at my elementary school.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, like thinking about it, it's weird that like each elementary school has like specific like painted areas and like specific walls for these games when
Hmm.
like these games like seem to be passed by like word of mouth, you know?
Yeah, I know, and that's
Um,
so because you don't think like it's not like I remember in elementary school. I have a cousin who lives way up in Morgan Hill, which is pretty far away from here. It's
mm,
like a 45-minute drive.
mhm.
And I was talking to her. I was teaching her wall ball, and she was like, "Oh, I know this game, but we play with like no rainbows and two bounces." Um,
Mm,
and I was like, "How does this game like spread?" I mean, like
I know.
I guess it was already there before us, but like still,
Right.
like it's just so weird. Like the word, like it's not just like kids are like going around like telling. I guess now that I think about it, I was like I taught her about rainbows, and she was like, "I love rainbows," and she went back and she told me she took it like to her school, and like they liked rainbows too. So
Oh.
maybe that's how it happened. It's just like everyone was telling their cousins from another school district about games.
Yeah. That's so cool. Like it's so cool to think that there's this whole like elementary school like culture, you know, like
Hmm.
these games that are like passed down from generation to generation. And like these schools are like enabling us to have this culture by um, having all this stuff painted. And I remember like in our elementary school, like when Playworks came in, these things, these like lines, they had been there for a while, as long as I could remember.
Hmm.
But Playworks made it a point to like give these like lines like fresh coats of paint, and like for like a bunch of games that we didn't have like specific painted areas, like they would paint areas to designate the courts.
Yeah.
And so it's just so cool like watching the tradition like unfold and just get like added to. And I've been to I've gone back to my elementary school several times since then, and it's only like improved and like flourished, and it's just so cool seeing like all these other different elementary schools also
Right.
having the same thing, and like just reminds me of my childhood, and it's so awesome.
Yeah. I definitely, again, and we've talked about this a little bit. I think we talked about elementary school a lot on this podcast. But I did not love elementary school for many reasons. But I definitely think that these games were, like, absolutely, like, the highlights. Like, I remember, like, the wall ball era and, like, the infection tag, mafia tag era were, like, some of the best parts of my elementary school childhood, for sure. And I think that it is very awesome that it kind of, like, there was just that culture, I guess, back then. Like usually you think, like, of elementary school. Like, now, like, when I see an elementary schooler, I'm like, wow, what a dumb child. No offense to our elementary school listeners, which, by the way, this is not the podcast for you. You should, every time I upload one of these videos, I uncheck the part that's like, is this video for kids? This is not for kids. Parents, if this is on speaker, I'm warning you now. This is, get your child away from the computer. We want your subscription, but we don't want your child to be sad. Sorry, a little bit of a tangent. I always think that elementary schoolers are, like, dumb kids, but then, like now, like, thinking back, like, either I was a dumb kid also, and, like, I think we were a lot smarter than we are, but also, like, there was a sense of, like, things that, like, I think, the more I think about the whole wall ball thing, the more it was, like, there was, like, a culture there, and there were solutions that I think we were reaching. But then the adults came in and were like, we don't understand, and we're just going to fix it to make it so that you understand. Yeah. Crazy stuff. That's a good capping point, I would say.
Yeah. I believe so, too. I think it's a nice little bow on this whole
it's a nice little message.
story.
And just remember that if your day is getting worse, maybe a Playworks angel is going to come down and kiss you on the top of your forehead. Just a little kiss. Little warm kiss.
Kiss.
Just a kissy kiss. Next week we will have another guest, so definitely stay tuned for that. And thank you guys so much. James, final closing thoughts as always?
So if you or a loved one have been diagnosed with trichomycophoria, please call me. I've been collecting people.
The Absolute Idiot Podcast.